Bueno, hola para mi comunidad latina de Waco y el Condado de McLennan. Les habla Reyna Reyes con el podcast del corazón, donde el pasado inspira y el presente nos conecta. En esta serie entrevistamos a Jeff Aguirre, candidato para el alguacil del Condado de McLennan. So basically, I was just letting the community know who you are and what you're running for. Yeah. So, hola, buenas tardes, Jeff. Para muchos de la comunidad de Waco, el sheriff Parnell McNamara ha sido reconocido como el alguacil del Condado de McLennan por muchos años. Basically, I'm just saying, he's been, Parnell has been the sheriff for several years now, and so the community recognizes him as such. Algo que tú dijiste, lo leí en, fue una entrevista que tuviste con Waco Tribune Herald. Dijiste, I'm not running against anyone. You said, I'm running for the people and the organization and the citizens of McLennan County. Eso fue algo que tú comentaste en una entrevista. Dijiste que tú no corres contra nadie, sino que corres para la comunidad, o sea, que para servirle a la gente de McLennan County. Yo aplaudo mucho este enfoque tuyo, so I do applaud that your focus is on that. So, ¿cuáles son 3 metas hacia la comunidad latina aquí en Waco y el condado de McLennan? What are 3 goals that you have as far as reaching the Latino community?
My goals would ultimately be just to reach them in general, to get them engaged, to get the community engaged, just in politics in general, not necessarily just law enforcement or just this sheriff's race, but to just get them engaged. From the outside looking in, I think it begs the question why we're not more united, why we're not stronger as a people. And why we're not confident enough in who we are to be involved. And I think the community as a whole, to run the risk of sounding soft, they need to hear that they matter. And sí. I think that's one of the things we need to talk about.
Sí, eso es lo que le pregunto, ¿verdad? ¿Cuál es su enfoque? Entonces, lo que me está diciendo es que, pues primeramente la pregunta, ¿verdad? ¿Por qué no estamos más involucrados como una comunidad latina juntamente con el sherife, ya sea el sherife o ya sea, el liderazgo de la comunidad? Y le pregunto aquí a Jeff, ¿cuál sería su enfoque a poder alcanzar a la comunidad latina? So, though specifically though, is there any sort of, I guess I should ask, like, I don't know, maybe strategy, or is there any sort of specific thing that you think that might help be able to reach the community, the Latino community specifically?
Outside of involvement and specific or specific or particular engagements with, we have initiatives that our team has thought up and put in, well, not put in place, but are ready to put in place in the event that we do win this thing. And it's just not the Hispanic community. It's the Black community. It's the white community. It's to get everybody engaged. But there are initiatives where I think we need to reach out to certain people as opposed to wait for them to reach to us. And I think that's important, that they know that we're here for them, not the other way around.
Sí, entonces lo que me dice es que él ya tiene algunas iniciativas a las cuales él quiere empezar en cuanto él empiece su término como alguacil, si es que ganan aquí en los próximos meses. Bueno, Jeff, entonces yo leí que usted sirvió a la comunidad como policía en Hewitt, ¿verdad? So you did serve as the police force over in Hewitt. Can you tell me a little bit about that experience?
Yeah, so following my time in corrections, I put myself through the police academy, and I went to the police academy in Navarro County. I'd work during the day, and then I'd go to the police academy at night, and I was hired on by Hewitt. I was there for 1 year on patrol before being sent back to the sheriff's office to be part of their narcotics program.
Okay. Bueno, en este clima donde la comunidad, bueno, primeramente me contestó Jeff que él sirvió 1 año allí en Hewitt y luego lo trasladaron a varios departamentos. En este clima donde la comunidad latina le guarda miedo a la policía y lo percibido es que existe racismo contra el latino, ¿cuáles pasos piensas tomar tú para remediar estas dudas y temores? So the question is, having served as a police force for Hewitt, the perception with the Latino community can be that of fear, towards the police force. Maybe there's some racism. And just to kind of line it up a little bit, I'm going to give you a personal experience. It's kind of funny. It is and it isn't. So recently, I was at a restaurant, and it's a Hispanic-owned restaurant. I go there a lot. So I do real estate for work. So a lot of the times I'm, doing my work as I travel. And it could be out of my car, sometimes at restaurants. I have an office, but since I'm on the go all the time, Y para mi comunidad latina les voy a explicar esta historia. Pero, so I'm there at this restaurant. I have my meal. I leave. I sit in my car for probably 45 minutes. And the entire time that I'm sitting in the parking lot, for 45 minutes, there's, I won't say what area it was. I'll just say there was a police car sitting probably like 2 spaces away from me. So we both sat there for almost an hour together. And I pull out, and he pulls out right immediately behind me, right? And so the way this restaurant is, so this is the restaurant in front of us. You pull out, and immediately there's a turn. And as soon as it's not even it's just a few feet. So immediately he turns on the lights. And when he stopped me, I was a little defensive. I said, like, dude, we were sitting together for almost an hour in this parking lot, and you want to stop me, immediately as I pull onto the road. And he said, well, you didn't use your blinker. I'm not going to lie, Jeff. I kind of felt like I was targeted there for a whole minute. It was a Latino-based, restaurant. It was the middle of the day. Maybe he thought I had a couple of drinks. I don't know, and then I'm a Latina, and then I pull out. And so in saying that little story, do you find that people say that or share those kind of stories with you?
Yeah, I do. They, as a patrol officer, you're always looking for, and it works both ways. I can see how you can feel that way, and like you said, maybe he thought you were intoxicated. Maybe he thought it was odd that you sat there for 45 minutes.
Sure.
So when he starts thinking of those questions start entering his mind. He's got to get answers. So he's looking for that one infraction, and once it's a legitimate infraction, then he has.
That kind of sucks, though, Jeff. I got to tell you.
Yeah, it's bad. It's bad. Listen, have you seen the traffic? The book is that thick. So, but once he's got that infraction, it gives him the right to go up and talk to you. And
Sure.
that's what we talked about a while ago, though. Once you approach that situation and you talk to that person and you get the answers to your questions, go on your way.
Sure. Okay. Well, I only share that just because now that's not the first story that I've heard. I mean, that's the first time that I actually really experienced it myself. I've just heard it from other people. But anyway, I just thought that was something that I could share with you. Okay, so sé que se pasó ahí una conversación a lo largo. Bueno, lo que le estaba explicando aquí a Jeff era que a mí en lo personal me ha sucedido donde yo siento que hay algo de racismo en las razones por cuales nos paran, ¿verdad? Ya sea por un ticket, quizás no utilizamos, no sé cómo se dice en español, la direccional para voltear para un lado, para el otro. Y le estaba explicando aquí a Jeff que la gente en el pasado me han explicado de estas situaciones y yo siempre decía, te lo estás tomando tú en lo personal, pero cuando me pasó a mí, pues sí se sentía muy personal, ¿verdad? ¿Por qué me paró a mí? O sea, ¿será porque soy latina y acabo de salir de un restaurante y los dueños son latinos? No hice nada, ¿verdad? Me pararon luego a salir a la calle, pero él también dice, bueno, ok, pero también ponte a pensar que tú estuviste ahí 45 minutos en un estacionamiento y saliste de un restaurante donde venden alcohol. Entonces hay que pensar, ¿verdad? ¿Cómo se dice? Usar nuestra razón para poder hallar una explicación razonable. Pero sí le explico también a Jeff, mira, pues por eso a veces también pensamos esas cosas, porque no suceden, ¿verdad? Pero como quiera. Lo que me dice aquí Jeff es que él tiene como quiera iniciativas para poder educarnos a nosotros, a los latinos, acerca de las razones por cuáles son los que nos paran a veces y no tienen nada que ver con nuestra raza, se puede decir. So I explained that a little bit. So as a follow-up question to that, as patrol officers, as a sheriff, how well equipped are you guys to be able to help someone who is Spanish speaking? Like me, I'm bilingual. I can speak Spanish, I can speak English. but someone who is stopped who maybe is just as innocent as me, right, and can't really explain themselves, how well equipped are you guys for that situation?
Well, I've been out of there, off of the patrol side and the investigative side, going on about 2.5 years now total. But while I was there, it always seemed that we had a Spanish speaker or a female officer at all times on shift. You got one for the whole county.
Yeah.
There's, but we've got a lot more Spanish speakers now that are out there that help. They're on every shift. If something were to happen, we can get a translator there and we can talk and we can understand the situation, help people understand what they're going through or why they're going through it.
So algo que le pregunté a Jeff fue que cómo es que pueden ayudar en las situaciones donde quizás paren a alguien que habla nada más el español y no inglés, ¿verdad? Entonces me dice Jeff que sí hay personas a las cuales pueden llamarles para que traduzcan la situación. Okay.
And to follow up with that, there are continuing education classes for police officers.
Oh, okay.
And there is a police officer's Spanish level 1, level 2 that I believe the level 1 is state mandated for officers that came in after a certain year.
Really?
And
I didn't know that.
it's just enough Spanish to get you through a ticket, and where you'll run into problems is if they want to explain what they're doing or explain how they got there, or if they're having an issue and they need some help, then it's going to kind of go down a different trail. But there is continuing education to make sure we close that language barrier.
También lo que me explica Jeff es que además de la gente que tienen para traducir durante en estas situaciones, es que también les dan o les ofrecen educación específicamente para el lenguaje español, para que ellos puedan manejar una situación básica, ¿verdad? Y ya si se complica más la conversación, pues entonces le llaman al traductor para que venga a traducir la situación. Okay, let's see. I did have something else. Otra cosa que investigué sobre sus experiencias fue que usted tiene experiencias con los narcotraficantes aquí localmente. So you have some experience with the narcs here locally. ¿Cómo cree usted que afecta la situación en la frontera a lo que estamos viviendo aquí en Waco? So how do you feel what's happening along the border affects here in Waco, as far as the narcs?
Yeah, well, it all having an open border, having a porous border creates a lot of problems, not necessarily with just narcotics trafficking, but with people who would choose to do American harm.
Y Jeff, antes de que sigas con esa respuesta, so I've asked him, right, le he preguntado que cómo es que la frontera siendo abierta afecta a los narcotraficantes que estén aquí trabajando en Waco, ¿verdad? Para mi comunidad latina que no me conoce, yo soy inmigrante de México. Me vine en el 1979, sobre que tengo muchos años aquí en Waco, ¿verdad? Y soy inmigrante, mi familia es inmigrante. Tengo familia que aún vive en México y ellos tienen experiencia en lo que está sucediendo ahí en la frontera acerca de los narcotraficantes. Y por eso le pregunto esta pregunta a Jeff. So I'm just giving him a reason, a little bit of background on myself as to why I'm asking this question.
Okay, yeah, sure. So what we've seen in the past, in my experience, is that the narcotics pipelines from way back in the 70s, when they were just moving marijuana, those pipelines still exist. And whether you're putting marijuana or methamphetamine or people in those pipelines always have a product coming north and money going south. We are, unfortunately, for the narcotics game, strategically in a bad spot. We're 100 miles from Austin, 100 miles from Dallas. So being 100 miles from Austin and 100 miles from Dallas, we see Waco, McLennan County is a jumping off point. for things going north, people will meet in Waco, continue the narcotics north while the money goes south. They'll bring it here. It splits up and goes all different directions. It's not just a big city problem. It's not just Houston and Austin and Dallas and Fort Worth. Waco is growing, and because of where we're positioned, so is the issue involving narcotics.
So lo que me explica Jeff es que mucho tiene que ver la realidad de la frontera que ahorita está entrando y saliendo sin mucho control, ¿verdad? Y desde los 70s eso ya se estableció, ¿verdad? Que las drogas pueden traficarse de allá para acá, y con eso de que Waco está ubicado en la 35, ¿verdad? La carretera 35 que corre por el centro de Texas hasta más lejos, ¿verdad? Fuera del estado, se puede decir. Eso tiene mucho que ver, ¿verdad? Sé que es muy sensible ese tópico porque, pues, obviamente, pues, hasta yo, ¿verdad? Yo soy inmigrante, y entonces para mí es importante entender cómo es que piensa Jeff ayudar con esa situación, ¿verdad? Y también a la vez apoyar a la comunidad latina que no está involucrado en eso, ¿verdad? So I'm explaining to them that it's important to know where you stand on that, because while we do want, as Latinos, we do want some of that to be controlled, right? We also still want to feel and know that we are supported as a Latino community and that we're not all kind of just balled in together to the same group. You know what I mean?
Oh, I understand completely.
Yeah. Bueno, ¿cuál iniciativa sería bueno para educar y alcanzar a los jóvenes latinos? So with all of that going on and all that being said, do you have, and I kind of asked this at the beginning, but specifically, do you have an initiative in mind that would be good to reach and educate the Latino youth? Something that Johnny Gonzalez and I were talking about earlier was the fact that there used to be places where kids could gather. And he mentioned it to me, and I think it's important to bring up because even with the Latinos, the Boys and Girls Clubs and, all those different rec centers that were available to kids, and a lot of that is gone. I remember growing up, I went to North Waco, and I would just cross the street to the Boys and Girls Club and hang out there, while my mom worked, and it was a safe space. And all of those places are gone. So la pregunta para Jeff es, ¿cuáles iniciativas tiene para los jóvenes quizás empezar de nuevo, tener unos lugares para que los niños puedan ir y tomar parte en actividades que no sean, ¿cómo se dice? Que no sean en drogas y cosas criminales?
Outside, no, I don't have any initiatives in mind outside of just wanting to be involved in the community. I was a boys club kid. I was driving around the other day with a guy taking some videos, and I said, "Hey, I want to show you where I lived. I want to show you where I grew up." I took him down the little side street there on South 25th, and I told him I remember when I was a kid, my bedroom window looked out over the baseball field. There was a ditch, and then there's that South Waco Little League field, and then I took him over to the boys club, and I showed him the ditches that we used to run in, to keep us off the streets. We navigated South Waco in the ditches. Mm-hmm. So it's unfortunate that those places aren't there anymore because they did keep a lot of us out of trouble. They kept a lot of us focused.
Safe.
Yeah, something as little as just showing up to jump in the pool and play foosball. It meant having a place to go. We learned how to be friends with everybody in the room.
There's a social aspect to that, yeah.
I think today's youth is missing that. And I think you asked earlier, what made me want to hug him after we, were beefing a little bit was because we learned it was a coping. It was a skill that we learned as children, how to disagree but still not hate each other.
Right.
And I think that's an important value that we're missing. And unfortunately, I don't have an answer on initiatives to get that back in place other than the people ahead of us paid for it for us. And maybe that's something we need to get back to, being more community oriented for our children, because if we don't provide the necessities for our children, somebody else will, and then they might not be doing it the right way.
Absolutely. Bueno, simplemente dice Jeff que sí, o sea, que él está de acuerdo, que debemos de proveerle oportunidades a nuestros jóvenes para poder llevar parte en actividades donde ellos puedan comunicarse juntamente con diferentes tipos de latinos, porque pues latinos no somos iguales todos, ¿verdad? Y para poder llevarnos bien, ¿verdad? Aún teniendo diferencias, pudiendo tener estas conversaciones, aunque a veces sean difíciles, pero podemos hablarlo, aunque no estemos de acuerdo, pero seguir llevando esas conversaciones y relaciones sin tener que estar peleándonos unos a los otros, ¿verdad? So, just one last thing, Jeff, I'm going to say in Spanish first. Últimamente, te voy a decir, Jeff, que los latinos sienten gran orgullo en sus acontecimientos y como inmigrantes vienen, o mejor dicho, venimos para tomar parte en lo que es el sueño americano. Pero no buscamos limosna, sino apoyo por el liderazgo de la comunidad. So basically what I'm saying is, lastly, I think as a whole, Latinos feel great pride in what they accomplish. And when we come over as immigrants, we come because we want to take part in what we have learned to be the sueño americano, which is, the American dream. Back when I came over, we legalized during the Reagan administration. And that was a big thing for me, learning about the sueño americano. And even in real estate, that's one thing that I like to talk about a lot is, helping people get to el sueño americano, which is home ownership. So in all of that, when we come over here, we're not looking for a handout. We're not looking for people to feel sorry for us. We simply seek what is it? In Spanish, it's apoyo. What is apoyo? Like, to be backed up, by the liderazgo, which is the leadership.
Yeah.
We just want to be supported. That's the word. We want to be supported by leadership, and for you being the sheriff, you're part of that leadership. So we just kind of want to make sure that and something that I talked to you before. I know Parnell McNamara, and I've known them for a while, and the same things that I'm talking to you about now are the same things that I've talked to them about. Him and his family. So ultimately, when we're looking at voting one way or the other, those are the things that we look at as far as Latinos,
Mm-hmm.
that you guys support us in our dreams as part of the community. Do you feel as a Latino that, even though you're not from Mexico, are you?
No.
Aguirre. So where does that come from? Do you know the origins of your name, or where
It's Spanish.
Spanish?
Mm-hmm.
So where is your family from? Like
I wish I knew. Like I said, like we said
your grandparents?
earlier, no. Growing up, nobody ever kept a family tree.
Mm-hmm.
They talked about my grandfather being born in the States, but they talk about my grandmother being born in Mexico.
Mm-hmm.
And then we'd hear other stories that she was born in the States. And they didn't keep the records. Nobody kept the family tree, or so a lot of that stuff was lost. And I remember, like I said earlier, growing up, neither one of them spoke English. I just kind of had to just nod and smile and try my best to understand what they said. And then one of my cousins would say, "Hey, they told you to go do this," so I'd go do that.
Yeah.
And that's kind of how I made it through life, being told what to do as a child. But no, I'm not from Mexico, but my family is. And to your question about being accepted and supported, I think that's huge in regards to, you talk about the American dream, and you talk about home ownership and being supported. We don't succeed on our own. We are a country of immigrants. That's how we came to be. And I think it's important there has to be a medium of how we got here and where we're going, and doing it underneath a set of rules that apply to everybody, that's safe and efficient enough for people to come and be part of the greatest country in the world. There's no doubt about that. I mean, traveled a lot, and nobody has what we have. There's a reason everybody's coming. You know, in December alone, they say that 302,000 people came across the border.
The Mexican border.
The Mexican border. And right now, I think it was either 159 or 169 different countries.
Wow.
You know, but fact of the matter is, we've got to be cognizant of the fact that, one, we're humans. We have to have a sense of compassion, but we also have to have a sense of safety and concern.
Sure. Absolutely.
So it's a very treacherous slope when we start trying to navigate that.
Yeah. Well, thank you. Lo que me dice Jeff es que sí, o sea, él apoya mucho a la comunidad latina, siendo que él también es latino. Él, sus abuelos eran de México, solo que él también tiene orígenes latinos. Creo que lo que estaba diciendo Jeff, también que él vivió en South Waco, que es el sur de Waco, y que convivió con mucha gente latina. Entonces él tiene esa compasión y entendimiento de las razones por cuales nosotros como inmigrantes venimos para acá, ¿verdad? Me dice que más de 300,000 inmigrantes vinieron aquí, nada más de aquí de la frontera de México en este año pasado, se puede decir. Y que sí, claro, él apoya todos los sueños y el sueño americano de los latinos, incluyéndome pues a mí, ¿verdad? Pues yo también viniendo de Nuevo Laredo, México, y mis parientes de San Luis Potosí. Entonces yo conozco mucha gente, convivo con mucha gente latina, y pues es importante que ustedes entiendan que los candidatos que están para ustedes, para el voto, que tengan también ese apoyo para ustedes. Jeff, muchas gracias. Thank you so much for answering all these questions. Creo que es importante que ellos escuchen tu voz en español. It's important for them to know from you how you feel about the Latino community, and I thank you for answering all these questions.
Absolutely.
Okay.
No.